Hey there, we are Rob and Joanna Tigan. Welcome back to the Growing Home Together podcast. We've been married for over 30 years and we've parented our 5 kids through all the ages and stages. We're excited to share our passion for caring for the soul of your family with you. Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Growing Home Together podcast today. You know, for so many parents in this season, you still have Pomp and Circumstance ringing in your ears after watching your child walk across that graduation stage and step into their next phase of life as young adults. And you know, I know you're excited for what the future holds for your child, but you're probably also wondering, what now? Does an empty nest mean an empty life or an empty heart, a void of purpose or happiness or a close relationship with that child that you love so much? If you're feeling overwhelmed by the changes in your family life right now, or you're struggling inside with the realities of your child leaving home, then this is an episode you don't want to miss. Our guest, Pamela Henkelman, is here to help us prepare our hearts to thrive in our empty nest. Pamela is a certified empty nest coach. She's a speaker, a writer, and the host of the Midlife Mama podcast. She helps Christian moms let go with grace and strengthen their marriages and rediscover their God-given purpose in their empty nest. Thank you, Pamela, for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we love it. Hey, before we jump in, can you just tell me a little bit more about you and your family? And what do you love to do when you're not coaching or podcasting or writing?
Right. So I am living currently in Iowa. I'm a Minnesota girl, and my husband and I have pastored in Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois. And now for the last 26 years, and now for these past 2 years, we're part of a parachurch ministry called Sheepgate, a division of Teen Challenge. So my husband is a full-time pastoral mentor for the guys, and I have a tiny role there where I help any of the men who are married. I support their wives, and I put on marriage weekends 3 times a year. So that's tiny part of what I do. And then most of the time I spend hopping from one child to the next. We have 3 grown children, and we don't live near our children. And we also have 4 grandchildren, with number 5 coming in the fall. Our kids are 25 to 37, and our grandkids are, the youngest is 11 months old, and then the oldest is 11. Yeah, so we have such a broad range. But my life is full coaching moms. I'm the empty nest cheerleader. I'm here to tell you, it's not all horrible. There will be a time of transition that every mom will go through with every child. You think by the 5th child, you'll be like, I got this? No, you still have to go through the grief. So I love supporting these women so much.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And congratulations on your new grandbaby. That is really exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're making me think about the time that I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of my son's college dorm. And it wasn't even while he was a student. It was after he had actually married and moved out of state for a while. And I had to go on campus for something. And I was crying my eyes out in the parking lot because I think the reality just hit me like, wow, he has really flown the nest. Can you share kind of what you're alluding to, just your experience emotionally of what it was like when your kids moved out of your home?
Right. The crazy thing is we all know this is coming. This is happening. And no parent wants to have their 5 children still living at home when they're in their 20s and 30s. Like, that would be absurd, would it not?
Yes.
That is not God's plan for families. And yet, this shift is so large because we move from directing to supporting. Everything we do changes. Everything, our expectations, the way we communicate, and how we just support instead of direct. And so every mom will go through a kind of grief. This is normal, but we're not meant to stay there. It's called transitional grief, just like it sounds. You're going through a transition. And we've been so beautifully supported the whole time we were raising our kids. We knew what to do. There were so many resources, books, podcasts, teachings. We knew exactly what to do. And then when we get to this phase of life now, we're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Where did the help go? I'm supposed to change everything, but I don't know how to do that. And so that's how this ministry kind of came to be, is because I found myself in this place like, I can't be the only mom who struggles. So the first child that went off to college, they only went 3 hours and cried buckets. I cried buckets every time. I cried buckets on the way dropping them off. I cried buckets on the way home. While I was with them, I really tried to be brave. I didn't want to make it about me, because sometimes that happens with parents. We make it about us. And this is a wonderful time for our child. They may have some trepidation, but really they're stepping into their first experience, and we want to lend them our courage. But then you will get home to the empty room and you're like, oh my goodness. And you just have to go through the grief. But it's all about processing it with God. It's all about being curious about it. And then when the fifth child left for college and we were truly having an empty nest, she was so confident and so capable. We could tell like she was like ready for us to leave. And her dad and I are crying because I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's like, okay, guys, bye. She wasn't sad. She wasn't sad at all. And I was like, why is she so brave? And why am I? I'm like, oh my gosh, we've hit this milestone. We've already been through it before, and yet we still know we need to grieve a little. And so we did. But also, the moment we walked into our house, after we got home from dropping her off, that was also 3 hours away, we went, wow, what is this? This is so weird. Like, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. The freedom that comes in an empty nest is astonishing. We couldn't believe that our lives didn't revolve around our 5 kids' schedule, what they were going, where they were doing, where we need to be. And so, yes, you have to grieve, but you grieve for a while, you grieve with purpose, and you trust the Lord to get you through it. Because on the other side of that, there is so much good. And I just want to say to people, it's not all bad. I promise you, it's not.
That is just a really encouraging word. I love that. And you talked about, this idea of transition and how our roles change. And we do kind of go from, being the involved parent to really, in a lot of ways, more of an observer. And just because our kids move out, it doesn't mean that they are fully prepared to navigate all that life might throw their way. And we're observing how this road to independence can be bumpy. So how can we best respond when we watch our child struggling through something, or they make just some, mistakes just out of their own inexperience?
Exactly. Well, you know what? We're all human. So for us to have an expectation that our kids aren't going to make mistakes, that's just ludicrous. Of course they're going to make mistakes. We all made mistakes. But sometimes pain is the best teacher. What's really hard for moms is they just want to rush in and fix. Oh my gosh, my child is struggling. I got to fix it. I got to fix it. And that is the last thing your child needs. You can get curious and you can ask questions and you can say, tell me about that. And then just listen. And this is a skill that most moms are really not good at because we were always used to providing solutions. But our adult children want empathy. I remember one time my son said, and he was, several years into being a young adult. And he's like, Mom, I don't really need advice. I just want you to empathize with me. I want you to validate how I feel. And I was like, Oh, okay. I think I can do that. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. And there's such power in empathy and just understanding. I don't know if you follow any of Brene Brown's work, but she has this lovely video on empathy. And it's these 2 little cartoon characters. Maybe it's 3 of them. And one of them is down in a hole. And his friends come by and say, well, what are you doing in a hole? Why are you in a hole? Well, that's dumb. Why are you in a hole? And then he has another friend who comes by, crawls down into the hole and says, I'm so sorry you're in this hole. Can I just sit here with you? And it's such a beautiful photo of empathy. That's what our grown kids need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know for mine, when you go in, with the heart to be helpful, but too helpful. It really communicates, I have a lack of confidence in you, that you can't problem solve this and you don't have what it takes to work your way through this. And so I think, yes, the empathy too is very honoring.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that this whole idea really brings up an important question for us as parents. How can we discern the difference between supporting our kids and enabling them to continue in habits or behaviors that are kind of getting in their own way, right?
Right.
Do you have any guidelines that you could give us around that?
This is a really important discussion around boundaries. Parents need to know what they're responsible for and what they're not responsible for. And when we overstep in enabling, we're becoming responsible for something that we should not be. So if you are continually rescuing your child, say they didn't do good with their budget, and you're like, well, here's $1,000. I'll take care of it. What does that teach your child? Mom and dad are going to rescue me. Mom and dad are going to take care of me. But if you say, oh, I'm sorry you made that mistake, I hope that you can make a different choice next time. We don't have to be snarky, but we don't have to fix it for them. And so it may be painful for you to watch that. I think we were the generation of parents who were the helicopter parents. We just hovered around our kids saying, oh, we can't let anything bad happen. We can't let anything bad happen. We were calling the teacher. We were doing things for them that they should have done for themselves. And so we get in this horrible pattern of not wanting our children to be in any pain. Well, you know what? For you and I, if we look back on the painful seasons of our life, we can see that those were great seasons of growth and lessons if we let happen what needed to happen. I call them the natural consequences. But if we don't do that as parents of adult children, that actually keeps our children immature, emotionally stunted, and responsibly stunted. And I don't want that for my adult kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. You're making me think about this mom that I know, and I thought this was just so brilliant, and it really stuck with me. She had a child who just couldn't seem to manage their time and their money, and so they kept registering for college classes and then failing the classes, and then registering for the classes and failing the classes. And that is a very major financial sacrifice for the parent who's helping them with school. And so she made an arrangement with her child and said, you front the money for the class. And if you can't succeed in the class, then, you can bear the financial burden of that. And then if you pass the class, I will back pay the class for you because I really want to support you reaching your educational goals. And it was amazing how that just gave the child what they needed to push through their discomfort and end up being successful in school. And so the mother was still kind of like with this supporting and enabling. She still was supportive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in a way that really equipped her child. And that just stuck with me in 100 ways, I tell you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's just brilliant, actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And, with this idea, though, of our kids struggling, I think that when we watch our kids going through a hard time, we can immediately lay the blame for that at our own feet. Because I know there are plenty of areas that I did not show up perfectly as a mom. I didn't do all that I could have to prepare them for life out in the world. Like I'm thinking about that now with my teenager. Like, will he starve? He can run an air fryer. That is all. If you can't make it in an air fryer, he's probably not going to eat it. So how can I, or any parent, kind of make peace with the guilt or the regret that they're carrying for maybe their past parenting choices?
Exactly. This is a universal thing. We all feel guilt and regret. But here's the beautiful thing is that at the time, we were doing the best with what we knew. Some of us lacked a level of skill or knowledge. And we know as we've grown older, we've gained more wisdom, but we cannot go back. But here's the thing. We can apply God's grace to that season. And we can humbly say, gosh, I'm sorry that I didn't do A. Now, we don't continually over-apologize because then that just becomes disingenuous. We're not taking all the blame. We're owning one thing. And that's so powerful in a relationship with your adult child. I'm sorry the way I handled that. I wish I could have done it different. Please forgive me. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't be defensive. But the beautiful thing is that God's grace is like his tenderness, his tender love bending towards you to just say, I see you. I know that was hard for you. He just wraps us in his love, and then we move on. If we're continually living in our past mistakes or guilt, that's not the life that God has for us. Because of Jesus, we're covered, right? We're covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think for me too, I think it brings me back to the question of who is sovereign in my child's life? Because if I think that all of my child's well-being and their future rests on me, then I'm stepping into a place that only Jesus is meant to be. And so for me, I have to start asking, am I believing in myself, or am I putting my trust in the Lord that he has my child?
Mm-hmm. So important.
Another aspect of the emptiness is again, back to that transition. What does our relationship look like now? And you wonder, are we calling them too much or not enough? Or are they only coming over here because they feel obligated? Or am I just a free meal in a washing machine? I mean, that happens, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. So what would you say to the mom or dad who just isn't sure of where they fit into their child's life right now?
Right. I think the best thing to do when your kids are first leaving home is just have this conversation like, hey, I was thinking about when we would talk, what do you think works good for you? Is once a week good? Would you rather text? Do you like FaceTime time? I have one child who loathes FaceTime. They're like, I am not going to do that. But they'll text me. And so having this open conversation about expectations, because you may have an expectation. Well, we're going to talk every Sunday at 2 p.m. And if we don't, that means they don't love me. And that's just not true. But you know how we do that? We make these assumptions and we have these expectations. And you know what expectations do? They lead to disappointment every time. So if you just have these honest conversations, now I think what parents really need to understand is that our children are not responsible for our happiness. They just are not. And so if you need them to be around you to feel happy, then that's a you issue. And that's something that you need to work on with God. And you find your fulfillment in Christ, not in whether your kids show up every week. Mm-hmm. And then it can go farther with, well, now I'm just feeling used. Well, here's the cool thing about resentment is that it's often an indicator that a boundary is being crossed. Does that make sense?
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So if someone is constantly just like only coming over because they want to use your washing machine and not hanging out with you, then you're the one who needs to say, sometimes I feel like you're just kind of using me. Could we talk about that? So it's just about having these might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but if you feel resentment, that's your responsibility to handle it. Mm-hmm. Now, don't have these expectations when the kids come home for college and you think, oh, it's going to be just like it was when they were in the house. And it is not. You know what your kids are going to do? They're going to come home, drop off their bags and go, bye, Mom, I'm going to see so-and-so. And that can feel so disheartening for a mom. Like, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? Well, you haven't done a thing wrong. You have an emerging adult who is used to having this independence. So just have a conversation and say, hey, just check in to see what your schedule looks like. Are you going to be here for dinner? What are you thinking? A beautiful phrase to use with our grown kids, as always, whatever you ask them, then just say, no pressure. Mm-hmm. Because children feel pressure from us, like they want to perform for us. And that's not the kind of relationship that I want with my grown kids. Whenever I do an invitation, I always say, but no pressure. And truly taking off the pressure feels good for everybody. And then I can be okay if they say, no, that doesn't work for me. I can't come home this weekend or whatever. It feels lighter to me. And I know it feels lighter to the adult child.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just hearing you encouraging just really open dialogue and getting things on the table. And I think that marries itself to what you said before about curiosity. That's come up with us a lot around the area of holidays and that all those expectations, right? We've tried to go toward curiosity, like what is your idea of how you feel good about spending your holiday? You're always welcome. We love to have you, but no pressure, right?
Yes.
So then when we are together, there's just a sense of freedom and lightness because there isn't that overhanging pressure that you're talking about. So that's a really good word.
Especially once our kids are married, that changes everything because now there's another family and they're not trying not to be with you because they don't love you. They're just trying to balance two families, these young families who have their careers and their children and they're overwhelmed. I just always say to my kids, I don't care when we do the holidays. It doesn't have to be, like I say, on Christmas proper. If you're the mom who says, well, I have to have everyone at my house on Christmas morning. Oh my gosh. We cannot live like that anymore because those days are gone. They were beautiful, but we can still have beauty in the holidays. And if there's a child who can't be there, we don't begrudge that. Instead, we embrace who is at our table and we say, thank you, Lord, that I have who I have.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Pamela, I'm so excited to hear about your experience in marriage ministry because I didn't want to leave this conversation without talking about marriage. Rob and I were dreaming about parenthood while we were still dating and engaged. It was always a dream we held so close to our heart. So it's a thrill for us that we have 5 kids. So it will be a big adjustment for us when it's just the 2 of us at home. And some couples describe the empty nest as a second honeymoon, but others are saying, wow, now that it's just you and me across the table, this is exposing the cracks in our relationship. Can you share a little bit of what that was like for you and how you would speak into that?
Yes, I think that is so true. There's such vast experiences. My husband and I are having a blast, but here's why. Because we came from homes that didn't have strong marriages, we really wanted ours to be strong. We wanted our kids to see what a healthy marriage looked like. Was it perfect? Heavens no. But when we landed in the empty nest, we weren't strangers. And I would say that the empty nest has just sweetened our connection. We have more grace towards each other now, I think, because we didn't have the pressure of this swirling schedule of activity. We were just able to have this freedom and this lightness. We were like, wow, this is amazing. Now, we started doing things that meant that we would be together. We started cooking together. I was always the cook in the family until about, we're almost on our 39th anniversary. On our 25th anniversary, my husband went to a men's conference and he's like, the speaker was saying, how are you serving your wife? And my husband was like, oh my gosh, I am hardly not serving my wife. So he started making me breakfast every day at year 25.
I love that.
I mean, not just eggs and toast, but like frittatas and he had never cooked. Yeah. So this morning we had jammy eggs with cilantro and red onion and avocado and cottage cheese. I mean,
wow.
Oh, yeah. He had gotten better in the kitchen, but once the nest was emptying, he started being my sous chef and he would do all the chopping, which for a cook, I love to cook, but hey, if someone else will chop everything for me, this is fabulous. And we would just process life while we were chopping vegetables. Well, he was chopping and I was cooking. And then another thing, we did this all along in our marriage, not from the beginning, maybe in year, who can remember? But we walked together and we prayed together when we walk. And it was just such a way to bond. There's something about walking side by side that doesn't feel so confrontational. You're not sitting across the table eye to eye going, hun, can we talk about this? And so walking side by side, like we could process our relationship. We learned how to communicate better. Like communication has always been a challenge. My husband and I are polar opposites. He's the analytical thinker and I'm the verbal processor. So he's over there thinking when I just want to talk. And he's like, no, I don't want to talk. I'm a thinker. So it's just been a challenge for us learning to understand and appreciate and be gracious with one another. And so it's been a sweet season of just rekindling that. We look forward to our yearly vacation for our anniversary. We're going to Nova Scotia this fall. And so it is sweet. We are doing things that we didn't have the finances or the time for when we had the 5 kids at home. And so that's been wonderful for us.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what can a couple like us be doing right now to build into our marriage before the kids leave home?
Yeah, make a priority to just have a date night or even just points of connection during your day that are just the two of you. Not when you're running off to something for so-and-so, this kid, that kid, and it's so busy, but have a point of connection. One of the things, he learned this, I don't know, he must have heard it somewhere at a conference or something, but he started asking me, how's your heart? And then I would ask him that. And it's such a pointed question because it gets to the heart of the matter. Like sometimes we get stuck in logistics and we don't share anything personal. But when you ask your spouse, how's your heart? They can say like, well, I'm wrestling with a little anger, or I'm a little sad today, or I'm anxious about this, or I'm so thankful this is what God did today. So it's just a simple question that opens up, and you can do that anytime. You know, when our kids were little, we would be like, cook dinner, and then we'd be like, okay, mom and dad are going to have some time. And we would just go hide somewhere to try to talk because we could never find any time. And so just find a point of connection. I think that's what happens when your marriage fizzles out in the empty nest. It's because you didn't know how to connect earlier on. Gray divorce is the fastest growing group of divorcees right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just tragic. When you've spent a whole life building something, don't give up on it. It can be rekindled.
I love that. I really love that. And I love your question about the heart, because it's so easy to say, you know, what's on your plate today? Or even even if we ask, you know, what's kind of fueling your stress today, the focus is still on your circumstances. And your question is inviting them to share what's going on the inside, which is so much more meaningful and significant. So that's really good.
Yes. That's where we connect. You need to learn to be vulnerable and honest and clear. And when you start doing that, I'm telling you, women have got to give up this notion that it's romantic that our husbands know what we're thinking or know what we need, because you and I know that couldn't be furthest from the truth. So if we need something, we have to voice it. We don't do it in a snarky way. We just said, you know, I'm feeling kind of lonely. Could we? I need.
Yeah. What I do with Rob, I don't know how he feels about this all the time, but we both work from home. And so we have the advantage to being able to check in with each other through the day, which is a blessing. But sometimes I'll go into where he is and he's got the laptop and the stacks of books and all the things around him. And he'll let me pick up his laptop and set it aside and lift up the books and set them aside and basically just crawl into his lap for a minute, because I'm a hugger.
That's so nice.
I'm a hugger.
Yeah, physical touch. Huh?
Yes, and giving me that touch point in the day, just taking a minute can just be so refreshing to get through the hours ahead, I tell you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I know you mentioned this, but even outside the marriage and reorienting our marriage relationship, moving out of the role of active parent, it can shake even our sense of who we are individually. So I know that this is an area where you just shine for me, but how would you say we can recapture our sense of purpose and identity when the kids leave home?
Yeah, this is so important and a really difficult question for moms, because once our kids are grown, we ask ourselves, who am I now if I'm not a mom? And the important thing we need to remember is that motherhood was one role that we played. One role. Was it impactful and important and wonderful? Yes. But it was only intended to be one role that God gave you. And so sometimes we almost make an idol out of our motherhood. And so when it changes, we feel less than. But here's the beautiful thing is God's not done with us yet. And when your active season of mothering is over, God has so much for us, so much good ahead. And we, again, have an attitude of curiosity and say, wow, what could I do One of my favorite things to do is to take my clients through my uniqueness worksheet, which is like a 5-page survey that has you write about and think about your strengths, your talents, your experiences, what kind of people you like to be with, what kind of situations motivate you, what in your history could impact what you do now. Because the beautiful thing is everything you learned in motherhood can serve you now in this season. That was preparation for now. I know the beautiful thing is when we look at statistics and culture, it's the age that's 50 to 70 who are the most productive. And so let's not believe the lie that it's over when our mothering is over, because it is not. It's actually the beginning of some of the most fruitful and productive decades of our life. And that's exciting. I mean, I'm 61. I'm right in the middle of it. And I'm like, this is amazing, Lord. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And I love God's design because he intended for the more mature believers and women to minister to the younger. And so I love what you said about equipping. I mean, the years and years of just rich experiences that God has given you with your kids could just be exactly what a young mom needs to hear about in her own season when she's feeling overwhelmed and just like, do I even know what I'm going to do? You know? So, God has such beautiful purposes, and he says he has had good works prepared for us to do from the beginning, and that didn't end when our kids left home.
Yes, and it may not even surround motherhood. That's the thing. It may have nothing to do with motherhood, but the skills that you gained while mothering can be applied in different areas. Did I ever imagine that I would be a writer and a podcaster and an emptiness coach? Never in a million years. But that happened as my nest was emptying, and I said, Lord, what do you want me to do next? What do you have for me? And this is what he had for me. And I am having the time of my life.
Yeah, it's been neat to see women that are farther down the road than me finding ministries that they never expected either. Like my own mom, she ended up connecting with these beautiful wives from overseas who were married to seminary students in our town, and just were so anxious to have an older woman just love on them because they're so far from their own mothers.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And she didn't go looking for that, but the Lord brought it to her because the Lord's purposes were already established for her. And that's just one example of hundreds. But yeah, you're right. I think we can have such a sense of anticipation that we don't have to even figure it all out. If we're actively asking God, what do you have for me next? He's not going to hold out on us and it's going to be good.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it takes a little courage. Sometimes I think we say, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But when you take a little courage and follow God's leading, what he calls us to, he provides for. So whatever he's calling you to, don't say, oh, I could never do that, because watch out.
Oh, that's right.
He'll help you do it.
Absolutely. Pamela, I think I could keep you with me for hours because you just have so much good stuff to share. But before we have to close, I'm imagining if you could sit across from our listeners just one-on-one, what is one message that you would most want to share on this?
I think I would want you to know, Mama, that God sees you. God sees every sacrifice you've made, every way that you struggle, every way you're trying to process the change in your life. But when you know that he sees you, then you can trust his hand. And just let him take it and guide you. He has so much good ahead. So don't assume that it's going to be difficult and it's going to be hard. You will walk through a little bit of grief, but it's only temporary. And then you can get to the good stuff. And there's so much good ahead.
Thank you. I can also imagine there are some parents listening today who really do want to capture a sense of hope and excitement for these months and years ahead. Would you be willing to pray for them as they're navigating this path that God has marked out through all these changes in their life?
I would love to. Oh, Lord, we just bless you and praise you for who you are. We thank you for your goodness to us. We thank you, God, that you lead families. And God, you bring families through transitions, and we don't have to fear it because you go before us. And so we thank you that you are the Lord who brings peace. You are the Lord who gives us wisdom. You are the Lord who causes growth within us to know how to change and do life differently with our adult kids. But we don't have to fear it because you are always there and you will provide everything we need. So give these parents peace, fill them with joy, and help them anticipate the goodness that you will bring. Amen.
Amen. Well, I know that our listeners are going to want to learn more from you and take hold of the many resources that you have to share. So you want to share any of those with us and tell us the best place to connect with you online?
Sure. You can find me at PamelaHenkelman.com. That's Henkelman. And you can find the Midlife Mama podcast. That's spelled MOMMA because apparently I spell it weird. I don't know. Some people do MAMA.
I like it.
I'm MOMMA. You can find that where all podcasts are. And an episode drops every Thursday. And for coaching, you can also find that on my website. You just can apply for coaching. And honestly, it is my favorite thing to do. I love walking beside moms to help them see that there's good here. And whatever you're sensing, whatever you're struggling with, there's a way through it. And I'm just a big sister who's a little farther down the road. And so I would love to help you. You can also find me on Instagram. I hang out there most. You can find me at P Henkelman. That's PHenkelman. And then I also have a free resource. I have a guide called Journaling Through Transitional Grief. And it's just a beautiful little freebie that I have for you. And it's just some questions that you can take and sit before the Lord with to kind of make sense of these feelings and how to get through this grief. So I will leave a link with you and you can put that in the show notes. And I hope that would be a great resource for your listeners.
Oh, that's tremendous. Yeah, we will put every link that we can in our show notes just to make it as easy as we can to find it. So thank you so much.
It was my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we just appreciate you. This was great. And thank you, friends, for joining us here at the Growing Home Together podcast. Rob and I would love to connect with you over on our website at growinghometogether.com. And you are going to find all kinds of resources to help you pray for your kids and to pray as a couple, like our book, 101 Prayers for Mr. and Mrs. At Growing Home Together, Rob and I are caring for the soul of your family, and we are just growing together with you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Growing Home Together podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found some valuable insights to help you care for the soul of your family. Remember to check out growinghometogether.com for more resources, and stay tuned for our next episode coming your way soon.